I'm going to show you a technique today to help you come up with more lyric ideas. Basically, we're going to tap into stories that already exist, characters that already exist. We're going to look at the emotion of what those characters are going through, and we're going to write out of that. So this is going to help you write more and more lyrics. If you want to write a whole album full of lyrics and you're struggling to come up with that sort of concept, like what am I supposed to write about, this technique is going to help you come up with that. You'll be able to write songs over and over using this technique. So let's get you writing more songs. Hey, I'm Craig from the Dot of That Studio, and this podcast, From Musician to Artist, is all about helping musos go the next level and become music artists. So there's a ton of things that we cover, and one of those things is songwriting. And within songwriting, I put a poll out on my Facebook community the other week asking, what's the main struggle with your songwriting? And overwhelmingly, it was this coming up with lyric ideas. So I kind of brainstormed, and I guess honestly, that's been the problem for me as well. I struggled to kind of open myself up and kind of be that open book and write about the things that I've gone through just for the world to hear. Like, I don't necessarily feel like I need to do that. I feel kind of, I don't know, I just don't have this endless amount of emotion that I want to write songs about. So coming up with lyric ideas has been a little bit of a struggle for me. And if it has for you as well, I want to show you this brilliant technique that I came up with that will help you to get out of your own head a bit, but still be able to write songs from within this kind of emotion, which is pivotal for people connecting with your songs, that they can connect with the emotion in your songs. So first up, I want to say that we are storytellers as songwriters. So we don't have to be like what I just talked about. We don't have to be this open book where we kind of, this is all the things that I feel. And to be a songwriter, I need to constantly express how I feel. It doesn't have to be like that. You just have to be a storyteller. So I'd imagine, like, for example, the writer of Harry Potter, the writer of Lord of the Rings, the writer of all these massive books, these massive stories that we love, they're not circumstances that those people went through. They're stories that they've created, and they've created the characters and emotions within that. So that them as writers haven't opened up themselves. They're just telling stories. So we can do that as songwriters as well. But the question still remains, where do we come up with these ideas from? And, when you write one book, that's kind of one concept, one topic, one idea. If we want to write an album full of songs, we've got to come up with 12 of those. So it can be a little bit of a challenge. So I want to preference this with you're a storyteller. So the technique I'm going to show you isn't cheating, because you don't have to come up with your personal experiences. Your songs don't have to be about the things that you've been through. They just have to be about emotions that your audience can connect with and relate to. So keep that in mind as we kind of go through this technique today. Now, what I love about this is that it's a repeatable thing. So we need to set up our songwriting so that it's a repeatable, we can do it over and over again system. We don't have to wait till this inspiration strikes us, because it's going to be when you're driving. It's going to be when you're hanging out with your kids. It's going to be when you're on a date or something, and you can't just sit down and write a song. So we need to come up with our songwriting, with our lyrics, with a system that we can kind of turn on when we're feeling inspired, or when we've got a moment to write a song. We can kind of come up with this. So this technique, again, it's telling stories, and it's something that's repeatable that you could do often. So let's get into the technique. So the basics of the technique is to get inside the head of an existing character or story that you have seen. So maybe the current series you're watching on Netflix, or the current book you're reading, you can get inside the head of the character and what they're going through and the emotions that they're feeling, and write a song from there, if that makes sense. So what this isn't is recreating that movie in a song form. So you're not going to write Forrest Gump the song, because that's not yours to own. That story has already been created. What you're going to do is grab an emotion from that movie. So it could be one particular scene, or it could be one particular character, and kind of unpack what they're going through. How are they feeling based off what the circumstances that are going on in their life? Because I think that's the problem sometimes, is that it's like, what's been happening in my life that I can kind of draw this emotion from? That's one. And the other aspect, like I mentioned, is we don't want to get too vulnerable about that. But we can take this character and the circumstance that they've been through and kind of get inside their head. What would they be feeling about this situation? How would they feel about this? And then we can write from that. So you might use Forrest Gump as your reference. You might pick a character out of Forrest Gump, but to someone listening to that song, they're not going to go, oh, this is from Forrest Gump. They're going to go, oh, I've felt that feeling before. I know that emotion that they're talking about. I can connect with that feeling, even if they can't connect with the circumstance. Maybe you're not talking about the circumstance, you're just talking about the emotion. Does that make sense? If you're struggling to finish your songs or even start new ones, I've got a template that you can download. It's basically a checklist that you can go through and make sure that you've got all the elements you need to finish your song. This is going to take away the overwhelm around songwriting and make sure that you're confident your songs are finished, legitimate, and ready to go out into the world. The checklist is going to help you know where your song's up to. You can see kind of what you've done and what still needs to go into your song. Following through the checklist is going to make sure that your songs will connect with your audience. You're going to have a melody that pops. You're going to have harmony that supports that well, rhythm that backs in. You're going to have a structure that carries your storyline and that your audience can follow with. It's all through the checklist, so you can just go as you're writing and just tick off, yeah, got that. It's not going to take away your creativity. It's going to take away the overwhelm and allow you to be more creative. So that downloadable checklist is completely free. You can grab that from the link below or head to dotted8.com, dotted8.com/artist, and just make your songwriting easier. Let's get back to the episode. So yeah, I would be highlighting a specific scene. There's got to be a moment when they kind of feel something, and then you can get inside of that place. So what is brilliant about this is that you can write, you're a storyteller, so you can write I, we. You don't have to write they, them, he, or whatever, because that can be a style of storytelling, a style of songwriting where you tell stories in the third person. But there's nothing stopping you from getting inside the first person and making a more intimate, relatable song by saying I, even if your emotion that you're representing has come from somebody else. You're a storyteller, so you can retell that story from your perspective, but inside their head. Does that make sense? So maybe I should give you an example. I wouldn't go with the main character, so I'm going to go with a side character. The main character might be a bit too obvious, and I don't know, there's lots of things going on with them, but like a side character, is that what you'd call it? Like a not lead character, but a main. Anyway, you can kind of pick someone else that's a bit obscure, so that maybe that hides it a little bit more. It also allows you to be a bit more creative because you've got a bit more license to make up what's going on, because the story's not about them, but you can kind of isolate something that they feel and take on that. So me and my wife have been watching Ozark. It's awesome, the new season's out. We're really psyched. So we're going through that. But this feeling of the son in that. So if you don't know the story, the parents kind of got caught up in drug trafficking, or moreover, the money laundering side of that. Anyway, their family's been swept up with it. So they've got this 14-year-old son who's kind of like, his family are criminals and he's kind of always on the run, and he had no choice in it, but he's kind of like always, there's people being killed all over the place, and he's kind of living with that. So he's kind of, hopefully none of us are in that situation. And if you are, then write a song about that. But for most of us, that's not an emotion that we're going to kind of feel, where our parents have made decisions where we have to just go along with it, and it's kind of intense. So we can write it, we can get inside Jonah's head and say, well, how does he feel about this? And write a song from there. So even just with that specific character, we could come up with 3 different emotions. If he was in that place where his parents have kind of chosen a lifestyle that has left him kind of in that, he could be like, he could tap into the emotion of, a bit of neglect. Like, my parents haven't really thought this through. I'm stuck here. I don't want to be here. There's no escape for me. So I just covered a bunch just in that. You could also do like the opposite. You could be like, yeah, I'm here. All my friends just have normal lives. I'm caught up in the drug mafia. I'm a bit of a big deal. I'm a big shot. My parents are these money launderers. So he could go from that emotion of kind of like, what would you call that? Like, I don't know, he's kind of flexing, like, yeah, I've got more than you. Can go with that. Or the third one, you could pull out another emotion, could be from fear, that you don't know what's going to happen. You're kind of living from day to day, not knowing what's going to come at you, what challenges you might face. You're kind of stuck in this place where you're really just a victim of the circumstance around you. So there's kind of 3 emotions that you can get pretty deep in just off kind of looking at one character and his story. So what I love about this is that it's creative. So you might think, I'm taking another character that's already been created by someone else, so I'm not being creative in that. But you have full license to kind of decide how they're feeling and decide how they're going to react to a specific circumstance. And maybe you're grabbing the emotion of a circumstance and you're deciding how that emotion will play out, but maybe you're inserting the emotion into the circumstance. And then in that case, like I've just done in those 3 different examples, you can then write from different emotions. So it's an extremely creative way to write, but what it means is that it's just on tap. So you can, any show that you're watching, you can pull out a character, you can isolate an emotion, and then you can write a song around that, which I think is, it's an what's it called with the well when it's like, it's a well that will never run dry. Is that what I'm trying to say? There's just so many movies, there's so many stories, there's so many characters, and we've just got to grab emotion and write lyrics out of that. I think one thing to remember here is that you're not a fraud because it's somebody else's story. You are a storyteller. You're just unpacking, you're isolating an emotion and you're writing a song about that. So it doesn't make you a fraud. It makes you a creative person. It's okay to be inspired by things. So maybe when people ask you, where's a song idea come from, you might feel a bit stupid saying, oh, it's from the movie Ozark. You don't need to say that. You can say, I was just thinking about, because you were, I was just thinking about the emotion that it would be like if you felt kind of trapped in your family, or I was thinking about the emotion that, or even I saw it from a movie where this kid was trapped in this sort of crime ring and he had to deal with that as a 14-year-old. So I just kind of, like, that's the truth of it. And you're just telling a story, and people love stories. Humans love stories, and they want to connect with stories. That's why movies are massive. That's why music is massive. Books are massive. We love stories. So you're just creating one. Where you get the inspiration from doesn't really matter as much as the way that you're able to grab that emotion and tell it in such a way that connects with people. Now, if you want to go a little bit deeper in how to connect with people with your lyrics, so how to take this lyric idea and formulate lyrics that actually connect with people, the last episode that I did, Unpacking a Billy Joel Song, is a really good kind of example of how lyrics can kind of be written to draw the audience in and make them connect the dots. So make sure you check out that video. I've linked that below as well. So what I think would be awesome is in the comments, what are you watching on Netflix and who's a character at the moment that you could pull out of that and write a song about? Skip over the main characters, but who's kind of someone in the movie that kind of might have a different perspective that you can get inside the head of and write from there. I'd love to know that in the comments. Chuck it down for me. Hey, I hope this technique helps you. Hope this you can write some songs. And what I think is encouraging about this is that we don't have to have gone through heaps. We don't need to be the big open book, this kind of what's happened in my life. Do I want to share that? Can I share that? Have I even been through enough? Wherever you are right now, you can grab the emotion of an existing character and write a story about that. So for me and sort of my struggle with writing lyrics, this is exciting to me. It's exciting that I can get inside the head of someone else and write from their emotion. And I hope that is for you as well. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so that more songwriting, more musician to artist type podcasts end up on your home screen there. I've got regular videos coming out all the time about going from musician to artist, covering songwriting, recording, touring, playing live, promoting your music, all those things. So if you're a musician wanting to level up and become a recognized artist and just get better at this whole music and artist thing, make sure you do subscribe to the channel and let me help you out with that, with a bunch of tips and just experience that I've had working with countless artists here in the studio. So that'd be awesome. Make some music this week and we'll talk again soon.